ever heard of her? She wrote the book, A Random Act. And she was going to catch a plane, and someone had dropped a canister of acid off an overpass that went through her windshield and literally burnt her entire body and disfigured her after multiple operations and things to, get her, almost killed her. I asked Cindy, I said, Cindy, why don't you do our Mother's Day program service? And she said, Mike, I'm not a speaker. And I said, you could do this. And she said, I don't know. I said, you come Sunday morning, you just get up and give your testimony. And so we had visitors to come in, and her family came in. And she got up, and she said, I have no idea who did this to me. It changed my life, obviously. And she said, I had to learn how to forgive someone. I don't even know who it was. And she's scarred. She's disfigured. And anyway, she wrote the book Random Act, and so I got her speaking for us, and she said, Mike, Robert Schuller called, want me to come out and speak, at the Crystal Cathedral. I'm on the news in New York City on the morning show, and I'm speaking at these conferences now. And she said, you kind of pushed me out there to do that. And just a few years ago, Cindy passed away, and so her daughter called me and said, I'm probably going to cry about this, but anyway, said, Mama's dying, and she asked for you to come. And so I did. So anyway, Cindy died. And we did her funeral at the church. And Dr. Phil and I did it together. Because Robin is Cindy's sister, who's Dr. Phil's wife. So there at our church, Dr. Phil and I did Cindy's funeral. And you really don't know how many people are touched by the tragedy of other people that touches their hearts. So we have to get people to the door. Jesus is the door. And so, maybe it's a Mother's Day service. Maybe it's a Western Day or Cowboy Sunday. Our church is on the Chisholm Trail. Brother Paul's been there. And so our church is on the Chisholm Trail. Has anyone ever heard of the Chisholm Trail? So, we're very rural. Our church is 5 miles from the nearest town. I guess if you want to find a town, a city over 30,000 people, Matt, you'd have to go 45 minutes probably away. Our church started in the back of a poultry house. And so we were affectionately known as the Chicken Coop Church for a while. And so we would have like Western Day, so our area is very Western, and people would come in, and we would, put up portable corrals and put longhorns in them and have a chuck wagon. We'd bring in a blacksmith. We brought in buffalo soldiers. We brought in a trick roper who was the world champion trick roper, throwing those big old loops and different things. And this is some of the things that we get. Well, that's just entertainment. That's not spiritual. Let me say it again. We are reaching people who are not spiritual. But the goal is to get them to the door. And if I can get them to the door and they go through the door, then I can disciple them. But here's something that I can't stress enough. We got to get people to the door. We got to get them to Jesus. And Paul said, I become all things to all men that I might win some of them to Christ. So it might be a Western Day. It could be a softball team. It could be a block party. It could be a young family fellowship. So we do 3 big events every year. One is Spring Fest. We do it the Saturday before Easter. So we get the plastic eggs, and we put together 20 to 25,000 eggs. We have inflatables. We have pony rides. We have a little train. We have bounce houses. We have pictures with the Easter Bunny. Anyway, we have balloons. We have face painting. We have snow cones, popcorn, all kind of stuff. So we usually have 1,500, 2,000 plus people come. A community event. We do it on campus. So, as usual, I get an email. Easter is not about bunnies and Easter eggs. So I answered the email, "You're exactly right. You're totally right. Easter has nothing to do with bunnies and Easter eggs. However, for the people I'm trying to reach, they're all into bunnies and Easter eggs. And if I can get them on our campus and intermingle with them and invite them to come tomorrow and hear what Easter is really about, maybe I can win some of them to Christ." So I hope that tomorrow you will be doing the same, and let's see how many people you reach for Jesus tomorrow. No response after that. So when you try to do something out of the box, get ready, because somebody's going to tell you you are not very spiritual. But let me tell you what spiritual is. It's bringing somebody to Jesus Christ. That's spiritual. Well, you're just feeding the 5,000 just so they'll follow you. Duh. Yes, I am. So the second one we do is called Evening in the Park. We just had ours Sunday night. We have a park there in Duncan. That's not where our church is, but it's the closest park. It's called Evening in the Park. There is a gazebo there. We feed hot dogs and corn on the cob and snow cones, and there's a kiddie land there, a kiddie park. We rent it. All the rides are free. And we used to bring in some singers, some type of music group. So Sunday night we had the group Cain. Has anybody ever heard of them? Rise Up song and stuff. So they've been to our church about 3 times. So they were there in the park. Last year we had the Easters. Before that, I think it was Jason Crabb. But anyway, we bring somebody in. And we usually have around a couple of thousand people show up for that. And you have to register if you want to get a prize. So if you register, we get to follow you up. If you want to get something at Springfest, you have to register. We follow you up. So the whole idea is what? To get them to the door. So we have to be very intentional. We got to get people to the door. Now, the last one we have is called Hallelujah Night. That will be coming up the 31st of October. So it's a Halloween alternative. And so we give prizes out for the best biblical costume, but just be aware that they're going to come in every type of costume. I mean, they're going to come off the street with everything. So don't be offended. That's just what it is. We have a cakewalk. We have bounce houses. We do pictures. We do little games. We give them all the candy, they want. And if you want to register for a prize, you got to go up and register. It's trying to make contact with people. It's trying to get to your community. It's trying, and this is what we found out. People look at our church and say, "Hey, these people want to invest in our community." Every week, Matt and Tanner, they go to the junior high and high school. They have lunch with the kids. We can actually still do that in our area. They can't preach to them. They can't really tell them about Jesus. But they can say, "Hey, we love you. We care about you. We're interested in you. We'd like for you to come to our youth group on Wednesday night, and then we're going to tell you about Jesus if you get there." So you got to get them to a place. So I just want to spend a little time, because I think this may be more important than the other side. For some people, the other side more important at times for other people. But we've got to get people to the door. So here's a question. What are the doors you're using to get people to the door? There's got to be doors to get people to the door. And different doors connect with different people to get them to the door. And the door is Jesus Christ. And so that's something we do. Okay, let's kind of go to the other side. So we have our services. You have yours. We have a newcomers class. It's called Let's Get Acquainted, and I'm sure several of you do that also. So when people come, if we can get them to that class, then they can ask us, about doctrine. What are the things we do? We have a notebook. Everybody gets the notebook. And We share a little bit about church history. This is, where we came from, because people need to know. I usually tell a little bit about my personal life and my family because people want to know. We talk about the structure of our church with elders and deacons. We talk about the financial part of it because some people want to know about where the money's going. They don't, in a Sunday morning service, hey, where's the money go here? How's the structure here? But in those classes, they can ask those questions. We can share that with people. We have 9 different Bible studies we take them through. We have 8 doctrinal statements that we share with them. And once they go through that, then they're welcome to go to any class that they would like to go through. About 2-3 times a year, some of you do the same thing. We have a series called Growth Tracks. It's for 4 weeks. We say if you've been here for 2 years or less, if you've never gone through this, we'd love for you to go through Growth Tracks. So every Wednesday night for 4 weeks, usually me, Pastor Matt's going to be doing that. We share with them through discipleship. We actually teach them, things about discipleship. We have another class called Mentoring Class. It's a deeper discipleship where we talk about leadership. We talk about how to study the Bible. We talk about, areas that you need to be plugged into. So we have to be very intentional because if we don't, then we don't have opportunity to disciple people. So we have to have times where it's one-on-one discipleship, which may be through a lunch. We try to, if we get a card in, so our process is, we give cards out to visitors if they're first-time guests. Many don't want you to know that they're first-time guests, so you won't catch some of them. So we send them a letter, we send them information, we call them, we try to invite them to a lunch, and Matt and I sit down with them, we have lunch with them, we hear their story. If you have any questions, if they've been coming for a while, here's the answer, the questions we ask, looking for answer. What's the best thing you like about Ray of Hope Church? What's the thing you really don't like about Ray of Hope Church? And if you don't want to know, you better not ask. Because sometimes we need to know. You can't correct what you don't know. So we have to have very intentional, structured ways that we disciple people. So those are some of the ways that, we do that. So regular services, newcomers class, with growth tracks, with mentoring class. And then now they're doing the same thing with our youth. So Dan did such a great job with that this morning. But now we're actually going into the high schools and teaching leadership classes with youth. They have to voluntarily come to that. We help support the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. We feed the football team. We supply things for FCA. So you really have to be aggressive in your community. You just have to be aggressive. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you energy. You don't have to do it all yourself, but you need to develop a very aggressive approach to evangelism. And on the other side of the door, you have to, prepare something. Once we get them in, how are we discipling them? How are we training them? How are we teaching them? What are we doing to bring them through a process of discipleship on that side of the door and evangelism on this side of the door? So we have a few minutes left here. I think we're supposed to be finished, at 10:30? Is that right? Or 10:40? 10:30, okay. So I would like to ask you, for my benefit, what are some of the things that you're doing, and we'll just kind of do it one at a time here, that's working that maybe some of the rest of us need to say, hey, what a great idea, I need to do that in my ministry or my church. So maybe something that we're not doing that you're doing that we would really like to. Oh, yeah, Dan.
Something we started a number of years back is we at the beginning of the school year, go in and feed the teachers.
Right.
Instead of just giving them their typical cafeteria food. And
right.
what we developed out of that is every year they are looking forward to us to coming in. We make them a great
That's outstanding. We do the same thing. We have 3 schools around us. We also have our own Christian school this year, but we take food to those teachers. And some of them have beginning of in-service meetings. And us and a car dealership provided the food to those in-service meetings. And we do the same thing. We don't go talk to them. We just say, hey, the food is from Ray of Hope, and we just tell you we appreciate you. And that's outstanding. And that's something everybody can do. Everybody loves free food. But they let you know that, hey, we appreciate that. Something else that you guys are doing that maybe some of us need to know and we need to engage in that. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you how many people so 1,500, 2,000 usually go? Let me say something about what Ben said. You actually get people on your campus too. They may not go in the door, but at least we got them on campus, and maybe the next step is they come through the door. Something else you guys are doing that we might need to know.
This next month, we're going to, a couple of our guys at church have Harley Davidson motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a motorcycle Sunday. Going to do the service actually outside, set the platform, and have the motorcycles. That's an outreach. And the last several years, 2 or 3 times a year, both with men and then with women, found out that in San Antonio, if someone has committed some kind of not a major crime, but domestic misdemeanors,
Yeah.
that if there's a opportunity for them to come to some sort of a religious gathering, that it will knock time off of their probation.
Yeah.
And we've connected with a Catholic group called the Ministry of the Third Cross. And so we use our facilities, we minister, they pay for it, and we've got families out because the families come on Saturday night and celebrate the what God is doing in the lives of these guys
Outstanding.
and in women. So, Brother Mike, you're right on. We've got to get them through the door.
Yeah. Well, we have a group called Overcomers Outreach, and it's people dealing with drugs or different things. And most of them well, let me back up. Some of them are there. Okay, most of them are there because they're mandated to be there. They have to go through some kind of program. And we have to sign their slip that they came. But that's both evangelism and discipleship because they are taught while they're there. Something else, yeah.
Motorcycle outreach also, but it's for the battered women's shelter.
Mm-hmm.
I work with them in the community. And so I'm a chaplain to about 13 chapters of outlaw bikers,
Mm-hmm.
notorious guys. And what I did was talk with some of the presidents because I help with funerals and things like that. And they let us come into their clubhouses in Charlotte
Randy, that's awesome. And, really what this is, the salt's getting out of the salt shaker, right? So, we're trying to invest in our communities and reach, yeah. Right. Yeah, it can be, let's go back to the scripture, and that's a great place to go to in the church. But the Holy Spirit's working. We should collectively, as an organization, and bad word, but, a collective effort as the church, and then individual. I mean, we have to partner together, and that's what that verse is all about. So that's just very, very important. We're called to build the kingdom. And we're not called to sit on the corner for 100 years. We're called to build the kingdom. And this is interesting, and you'll see this in Scripture. If you are fruitful, he said, herein is my Father glorified, if you bear much fruit. And if you look in the center of that, he talks about, you're my disciple if you do that. And if you do bear much fruit, you think, boy, I'm going to sit back because, hey, I bore much fruit. He said, no, I'm going to purge and prune you to bring forth more fruit. And if you said, hey, I took my 5 talents and gained 5 more, good. Then I'm going to make you ruler over more. So you don't ever have a chance to sit back and say, I did good, let's rest. He says, no, if you're fruitful, I'm going to purge you and prune you to bring forth more fruit. But if you don't bear fruit at all, I'm going to cut your limb off and burn it, and we're going to move on to the next limb. Boy, that's tough words, isn't it? So, we're called to bear fruit. And once we get people through the door and we disciple them, and, they pray for people, and we teach them, and we bring them, through maybe a bad issue with a crime or abuse or whatever, then now they are going to have a circle of influence that we don't have. I did a message years ago with hula hoops. It's crazy, I know. So I was talking about circles of influence, and I randomly got people out of the congregation and gave them a hula hoop, and I said, just hold the hula hoop around you. And I had, young people and middle-aged people, older people. I said, if you have a relationship in some very close way with any one of these people, come up and grab the hula hoop around them and just hold on to it. I mean, people got up and they're going over there and they're grabbing the hula hoops and circling these people. And I'm thinking, gosh, they have influence with that group and they have influence with this group. And a lot of them, I didn't have really much influence with any of them to begin with, only, as a pastor. But there's people have influence with people that you do not have influence with. And if you can get them discipled and then, infuse them in their world, in their community, their family, they're going to reach people you will never reach. And that's how the church grows. So Andrew comes and finds a guy out on the fishing boat. He says, come see somebody we've never seen before. So Jesus didn't first go get Peter. Andrew went and got Peter. So we got to have people going out and getting other people we don't know. They're sitting under the tree somewhere. Somebody's got to go find them, right? They're on a boat somewhere. Somebody's got to find them. But if we disciple them to do that, guess what's going to happen to our churches? They're going to grow. We're going to build the kingdom. Let's do 1 or 2 more, and then we got to cut this off. Yes.
First, I would like to apologize for my cell phone that started ringing. And secondly, I think perhaps it may not be relevant in an American community of churches, but I do a lot of teaching with pastors in Africa, and one of the focus areas is discipleship.
Yes.
And in order to get them to think, I tell a little story about a convert that was living with a boyfriend, being intimate, reading a tract that it was wrong, consulted a pastor's wife, and the pastor's wife, she asked the pastor's wife for her opinion whether it is right, because if she stopped that, she would lose a boyfriend. She loved him, so what should she do? And then the pastor's wife responded by saying, sorry, I cannot comment. I cannot tell you whether it's wrong or right. And then I asked pastors for comments, what they thought about the pastor's wife and the way that she was counseling the young convert. And then later on, when they've expressed their opinions, I say to them that I didn't tell them the whole story. Because the pastor's wife said that she couldn't tell her whether it was right or wrong, but she could refer her to someone who could tell her. And that someone said in the scriptures, those that are led by the Spirit are children of God. My sheep know my voice. So she was actually teaching this young convert to become a disciple, not of her and her opinions, but to follow on Jesus Christ.
Right.
And then she did that. And the Lord told her, and then I asked the people that I was addressing, would they like to know what Jesus told them? They usually say yes. And then I would say, well, I'm not going to tell you, because if you ask him, he will tell you the same story.
Mm-hmm.
See, the problem in Africa is that we make disciples of ourselves as pastors. We do not teach people to walk in the Spirit.
Right.
And if we can do that, then we are making disciples of Jesus.
Right. You know, Paul, when he was in Ephesus and he said, you'll see my face no more, he warned them about grievous wolves coming in, not sparing the flock. And he said, even of your own selves, you'll raise up disciples after yourself. And we're not to raise up disciples after ourselves. We're to raise disciples up to Jesus Christ. Because you're not going to be around forever. He will. Now, we will be around forever, but you get the point. Well, thank you. And I tell you what, this has been very informative. Thank you for sharing some of your ideas. And one of the things that I do when I go to a conference, what can I learn? What can I get to take back home to help build the kingdom that I'm a part of, to my sphere of influence? And so this is why we gather. This is why we get together. I mean, this is why Steve has, people up here on this platform, so we can hear, what God is doing among other people and in those churches. And let me tell you, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, and probably I never will be, but I can learn from other people and initiate things that work. So give the Lord a hand clap. God bless you.